All right, hello everyone. This is just going to be a quick-ish video about the different levels of competitive Splatoon play and how their rule sets differ, and I'm just going to offer a little bit of my opinion on what I want to see in the future regarding competitive Splatoon and the different levels. So, for those of you unaware, Splatoon has a competitive scene, and it's decently divided into different levels of play. You have low level, which is a very broad term. It encompasses a lot of different skill ranges. It's very hard to put your finger on in terms of like what constitutes low level and then what constitutes mid level, which is the next round. Or I shouldn't say round, but you get the gist. So I think with mid level, there are some like notable achievements that make you mid level. But that's besides the point of this video. I don't want to dive too much into the semantics of who is low level, who is mid level. And then you have high level, top level. I'd say high level, top level, that's a little bit of, again, another nebulous term. So I won't dive into the details of like what it means. But basically, if you're unaware, certain tournaments that you'll play in low level would be Low Inc, All for One. Mid level, you have SAC, you have Level Up. And then high level, top level, you have perfect rounds. So you also have the collegiate scene. And the collegiate scene is very interesting because you have vast majority of low level players, but you also have some mid level, maybe the occasional high level player sprinkled in. I know for like one season, there was a high top level bamboo player named Red Rum who played for like Cal Poly Pomona one season. And it's interesting. The reason I bring this up is because there is a schism right now in terms of who is playing what. And by that, I mean what modes they're playing and what maps. So at high and top level, you will see basically almost all splat zones. You will see some exceptions like the 20XX League, where you have majority splat zones, but even then, like people are counterpicking splat zones nonstop. So you have a lot of splat zones in high top level, but mid level and low level, you have a much different story. And that's like 25 zones, 25 tower, 25 Rainmaker, 25 Clan Blitz. So this is interesting because there isn't really a gradient between the two, but I think that there will be one in the future. And the reason I say this is because of another tournament that's for all levels called Swim or Sink. And what this is, it's a short-ish tournament run every Wednesday night where teams of all skill levels will play to get practice. And the thing is, they recently had an overhaul, or not a complete overhaul. They had a rework of what maps and modes they were going to be seeing. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing a lot of splat zones preferred. That doesn't necessarily mean splat zones only or like humongous majority splat zones. It just means splat zones preferred. And you also see splat zones only, but only once every 4 or 5 weeks, I believe. So you have the sort of gradient that's now being created where you're blending the high level and you're blending the mid-low level rule sets together, basically. So the reason I bring this up is because of mid-level. And I'm not a mid-level player, but I've been interested in seeing what they do. And what's interesting is mid-level is supposed to be like a bridge between low level and high level, right? So for the players that really want to grind, you just got unbanned from Low Inc. You have a really strong desire to just grind, even get banned from mid-level. So those people who, want to play in the Splat Zones only tournaments have to play Splat Zones only 25% of the time, give or take. Maybe like it's 30 or 40, but you have like very minimal splat zones compared to what they want. And what I think would be a good idea is to sort of formulate a compromise for mid-level. You have, and I'm just saying this not as a TO, I'm a spectator slash low-level player who eventually wants to potentially break into mid-level. So I think um, switching to splat zones preferred would be huge for mid-level. You would have a lot of people who would desire to grind the game more because you're shifting to a rule set that works better for that skill level. And I think that a very important thing, again, is thinking about which rule set pairs best with each skill level. It's sort of like pairing, I don't know, like wine with cheese or whatever. That was a dumb comparison. But an important thing is having low-level players not get stuck in like nasty lockouts every game. And if you're inexperienced with, say, retaking, then splat zones can be difficult compared to the other modes. So I think having a 25-25-25-25 split there is very good for low level. And I think, once you've grown accustomed to all modes, sort of gradually shifting to more splat zones makes a lot of sense in mid level. And the last thing I'll talk about is collegiate. I think collegiate, because it is majority low level, should stick to all modes. I know that there are certain players who are, again, mid-level, high-level, and the issue is there, we don't want to alienate those players, These players are excellent role models for the other members to look up to, So the thing is, you don't want to alienate that player base, which is very difficult to do in collegiate because you have such a vastly different skill levels. But at the same time, a lot of the collegiate players are there to have fun. They're there to play with their college friends. So I think that the best compromise there is to just stick with all modes because, again, vast majority of player base, low level. You can have people who've already graduated from low level, so to speak, show them the ropes of how to play all modes. And I think potentially having Splat Zones only tournaments maybe cater to just collegiate would be interesting, but I don't think it's a necessity. You could have, I believe Leagues Under the Ink did this once, a gentleman's rule in the higher division where if both teams agree to it, you can play splat zones on all the maps instead of, cycling through all of the modes. And that might be an interesting compromise, but collegiate is a bigger question mark for me. I think mid-level we definitely need a splat zones preferred. Again, I'm not a TO, I'm not like a mid to high level player, so I probably shouldn't be saying that we need this, but my musings are that I think having a transition between splat zones only and all modes would be very good for a mid-level scene. It would encourage people to grind. And also introducing more splat zones into low level for those who want to work on the retakes, want to work on potentially going into mid-level with a bit more experience if they'd like. And yeah, that pretty much does it. There's definitely some interesting things to talk about in regards to this. Let me know if you have any like opinions or anything, if I messed anything up or anything like that. So yeah, that's it.